Hi everyone, this is Jia from Plant Corner, and I am on my way to visit one of our very first customers, and I can't wait to show you how cool his apartment is. Let's get going.
Hello.
Hello!
Come on in.
Wow, this is so cute!
So welcome to my entryway here. Oh yeah, my name is Jake, also known as Plant Gate for Life.
Yeah!
This is my little entryway here because obviously there's no windows. Can't put any plants here. I've tried over the years, but when I went to Panama, I saw some amazing aeroids. Here's me with a really rare philodendron. Look at that. That was so fun to
Cute.
see. And then here is an Anthurium lingeri that I found that I featured in one of my vlogging videos.
This is such a great idea because when I know a lot of people would be like, I want to put a plant in this dark hallway, and I'm like, no, let's not do that.
Right, so you can put art that has like a floral design or like a foliage design. Like this was
Yeah.
given to me by one of my friends.
So cute, I love it.
Oh yeah, so you can definitely add some character and some like kind of the foliage theme in an area of your home that doesn't really have any lights. Like in here, if we just come in here real quick, so I have like some moss portraits. So this right here is like a little, I kind of use it as like a top for my my little basket with all my cosmetic stuff to kind of
Cute.
cover that. It's all about the sight lines, people.
Yeah.
But this is an area where people, like, they come in, this is the first kind of blank wall they see, so it's good to have something right there that kind of welcomes you into the space.
Yeah, and it looks handmade.
I think it is, yeah. I don't know where they got it, but it was really, really nice of them. Oh, and then a little plug for Plant Corner.
LOL.
I made this at one of the workshops because I have a window right here and doesn't get a lot of light at all. Doesn't need any light or care or nothing. And I just put it right there. Just come in here real quick. It's a small bathroom, but look at that. And it turns this otherwise kind of dank. It's really just a window to ventilate if you want to take a shower or something.
Gotcha.
But you just put something right there, right next to Ursula, and you're good to go. So come on in. Let's go deeper into the jungle. By the way, there is a secret in here, which we'll get to at the end.
Ooh.
Don't you worry. Just real quick, I'll show you my kitchen that also doesn't really have any light. I've got just some light strips to illuminate it. And I even have this guy. It's kind of inspired by, you know, that the Birth of Venus painting, the famous painting.
Gotcha.
But it's, so it's kind of inspired by that. So that, another way to bring foliage or flowers into a dark room with no natural light, just get a painting.
Yeah.
Eventually I want to put one here, because when I'm in here cooking or something, or pretending I know how to cook, I have a picture right here that I can enjoy.
Cute.
All right, should we get into the mess?
Ooh.
This is my cozy little sanctuary. Gotta bring the garden indoors, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you. Here we have some Anthuriums. This one I bought as a Ace of Spades, but it looks different than like your classic Ace of Spades, so I'm not really sure what it is. It is kind of rehabbing. It's putting out a new leaf. It did have a little bit of dry rot. That happens because I don't really care for my plants that well. Just gonna be honest, because I try to not care for them as much as I possibly can, and sometimes it backfires on me. That's why I grow plants in vases. That's like my whole culture. I don't really do drainage holes, guys. We have an Anthurium hybrid here that I got from my friend Jenna Zach, aka First Floor Foliage on Instagram. This right here, he is serving that one leaf realness. The reason why he has one leaf is because he had two other leaves. One of them came in a little bit warped, and one of them came in with like some spider mite speckling. So I'm like, you know what? We're not doing that in this household. So I chopped up those leaves. We're gonna start new. I treated him, so now this leaf is almost perfect. And I really like the kind of spidery venation. We call it like spidery venation when it's like really simplistic like this and it just kind of goes down, almost like a spider web or something. So I had a lot of orchids hiding when they weren't in bloom, but then I decided I kind of want them to be on display because they do have some nice structure. So I had them in these, they call them like orchid baskets or Vanda baskets, which is a type of orchid that people like down in South Florida grow them in these things. And they're just in sphagnum moss, and I find that they grow really well for me in this. I find that I always get either root rot or dry rot, or both, in like the plastic see-through containers. For whatever reason, orchid roots, they're like, I don't know. I just can't figure them out. I love orchids. I'm not an orchid pro, but this one, they've all rebloomed for me. I will say that. This one is still holding on, and it has like the most beautiful floral scent. I don't know if you got a whiff of that when you were over here, but it's really strong like all throughout the day, and even at night a little bit, even though it's strongest during the day. So,
and that terrarium is beautiful.
So we got, I just recently did a tour of this that I posted on Plant Gate for Life. But yeah, we got a really cool biophytum in there, which looks like a miniature tree. I had a bunch of carnivorous plants in their own little cups, own little like pots or whatever you call them.
Gotcha.
Kind of, you know, like down here. But I wanted to consolidate a little bit because I wanted to have the orchids on display. So I put them all in here, and now I just water with distilled water because that's what they like. And they seem happy. This guy's on his second flower. The Venus flytrap is about to bloom like any day now. We got some jewel orchids in there and some moss that may or may not be from Central Park, cannot confirm nor deny.
About how many plants do you have in this studio apartment?
So it depends. If we're talking about potted plants, I would say I have around 40 to 50.
Not all of them, including the one in your terrarium.
So that's the thing. So potted plants that I water individually, maybe like 40 to 50. In here alone, I probably have another 40 to 50. You know, give or take. I'm always putting things in, taking cuttings, taking things out. And then in the secret closet Narnia that we'll go visit in a sec, there's probably another 50 plants are in there, or maybe 100 there's seedlings in there.
So we have about
maybe
150
to or 200, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah,
and
but
how long does it take for you to water everything?
You know what? I don't have a watering day. So when people say, oh, it takes me like 2 hours to go and water all my plants, all my plants are on different watering schedules. They don't all want water at the same time. And if I do water them at the same time, in the long term, it's probably not going to work in their best interest or mine. So I find that just kind of going around and watering like 1 or 2 a day, because I work from home, I work right here, I do my music as well, as you can see right there. So, you know, I just go around and I see, okay, you're dry, I'll water you. I'll water a couple plants a day. Some days I'll water them a little bit more than others, but I like to keep it low maintenance, kind of chill, you know? So I don't have like a watering day.
Because that's what I've been telling all customers all the time, like don't stick to like once a week schedule.
Right, because some plants might need water twice a week. Some don't need water, you know, more than once a month.
Yep, it's all about getting to know your plants and your environment.
Exactly,
right?
And also if you move a plant from maybe like a darker spot to a little brighter spot, it's going to need more water because it's going to photosynthesize more in that brighter spot. Its metabolism is going to speed up. So its care is going to change a little bit that you gotta keep in mind.
Exactly.
This guy, he's fairly new. I got him right after I went to Panama because I saw one of these potted. It's a Royal Poinciana. I saw a big tree of it, and I just loved it. It's one of the ones kind of like a mimosa or a biophytum where at night the leaves will kind of fold inward, or like a prayer plant. So it's interesting like that. And it seems to be doing well. It's putting out new fronds for me, which I'm very happy. I'm not very, I don't really know how to care for trees. So I don't have a lot of, this might be my only tree in my collection. So I'm very happy that it's not throwing a fit. I do want to get a Manila and try to grow one of those indoors. So it's actually on the way.
I'm trying to do that as well.
We're both trying.
Yeah.
It's on the way, and it's flowering size, so hopefully it will.
Ooh, exciting.
It will be nice.
Yeah.
So and it will be nice to me because I don't want it to throw a fit. And then over here I have an Anthurium hybrid.
It looks like Delta Force, but it's not.
Yeah, it kind of has that triangle look. It looks kind of like Delta Force. It also looks like a really expensive Anthurium that doesn't have a name. They call it SP Nov DF. SP meaning species, Nov meaning new, DF are the initials of, I think, the man who discovered it, Dewey Fisk. That plant, like this size, would be maybe like, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000.
Wow.
And I just have this guy. I bought this, I think, for like $100 when it was like that big. So a little bit of an investment. I've since sold and traded cuttings, so I've made my money back and then some. So, and it offsets like crazy. Like there's an offset there, so I can pluck that once it gets some nice roots, sell that, make a little bit more money, because everyone wants the expensive plants, but nobody wants to spend the money.
Yeah.
So when you can find a look-alike that serves you almost pretty much the same vibe. I mean, that's all you need, right?
Right. And they say there's grow light everywhere.
Yes, there are grow lights everywhere. I'm going to do an experiment. I have some new grow lights coming. I'm thinking of doing kind of like the track lighting thing, kind of like what you have at your shop, but not the like the really expensive ones because I don't got that in my budget. So I'm going to get just like some cheap like ceiling ones that just have like a light bulb you put into it. I'm going to try some GE grow lights that I have in the closet, and I'm going to have them kind of shining this way, hoping that all the leaves will come
out.
Exactly, will come out facing this way. Because when you have grow lights that are right above the plant, it's going to go in all directions. We have leaves that are coming out this way and that way, you know. But if you can position your plants just behind, like I have this guy here, just behind the light, it kind of forces the leaves to face that way. Whereas if you had this guy facing the room, but behind him was a bright window, the leaves would start to lift up and it wouldn't look quite as aesthetic.
Gotcha.
Speaking of which, that's a giant monstera. Let me just bring him down real quick to show you.
Is this the elbow?
This is the elbow that I got from you.
I barely recognize her.
I top cut it. I'm trying to get it big. I'm trying to give it that large form look. It looks like the new leaf's gonna be quite variegated, which is nice.
Nice.
Here's the thing, guys. Yes, there is large form and small form, but you can grow the small form. If you give it a lot of light, you can get it pretty damn big. Right over here real quick, I didn't want to miss this guy. This is Anthurium Lingeri. He's been sitting like this for a while, so I got another one. He hasn't put out a leaf in probably like 4 or 5 months. I actually did something that people might gasp at. I chopped his growth point, or like I plucked it off.
Okay.
Just to like try to trigger him to do something.
Right.
Put out a new growth point, do something, because his roots are beautiful.
Right.
He put out all of these leaves in this spot, so it's not a lighting situation. He gets his feed. You know, I mean, the humidity is a lot higher right now because we're just getting into summer here in the city. So I don't know what his problem is, but whatever. And then we got some Spanish moss here. I'm trying it again because I used to have a whole bunch and I loved it. Over here is an orchid. And that's another reason why I wanted to get the brighter grow lights, because I want to have some orchids here that have a nice structure to them. But as of right now, this is not getting nearly as much light as it needs. Orchids, most of them need over 1,000-foot candles. Some of them need like 3,000 or 5,000-foot candles, something like that. You know, and when we get into here, I'll show you some examples of those. Right. Actually, why don't we just go into here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is such a beautiful terrarium.
There it is.
Put my terrarium to shame.
Your terrarium inspired this terrarium. The secret to this thing is that I can have things rehabbing in here, little chunks of like Anthurium propagations or things that I want to grow out. I can just throw stuff in here. I can throw orchids in here that are not flowering. So on their own, these plants might not be all that interesting, but when you put them all together as one big showstopper, and also I can water it all as one, as if it were one plant, one giant vessel. I mean, to me, that's like knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone, or whatever the saying is.
It is 2 birds in 1 stone.
Yeah, so
how do you water this, if I may ask?
Yeah, so I used to spray it. I would spray it every day. I have a little thing in here that can read the humidity and the temperature on my phone, and it can actually notify me if it goes over 100 degrees in the summer or if it drops below like 80% humidity. So I used to water this at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, because it would just dry out too quickly. Also, I didn't drill any holes, so I do have some kind of cumbersome wires here, so it is cracked open a little bit. It's good for airflow, not good for holding in humidity.
Right.
So what I did was I again, inspired by your terrarium, because you have the Mister system. I got the Mister system, and I've been playing around with it. It goes off a few times a day for different amounts of time throughout the day. And yeah, I just replanted some moss and I repositioned it, so hopefully all this moss stays nice and green. Moss will just kind of grow anywhere. As long as it has moisture, it'll grow in high light, low light.
Right.
Like,
as long as there's moisture.
You can give it distilled water, you can fertilize it, you can do nothing to it, and it'll grow. Yeah. It's great. I love moss. I love making terrariums. And I don't know the different names of moss, but I love all the different textures. If you get in here really closely, you can see like all the different types of moss. We got this Philodendron. I think it's called blood. There's a certain variety that puts out like that really red underside to the leaf right there. Do you see that right there? That's the newest leaf.
Whoa.
Yeah, I love that.
Beautiful.
Also, the fuzzy petiole is just so weird. I love weird things.
Which one is this one?
That one, again, it's another rehab. It's a little Anthurium. I forget the name of it, but it was something I got from Equigenera. And you know Equigenera is kind of hit or miss. So I have a piece there, I have a piece down there. So here's the thing. I leave the leaves on because the chunk of the plant, the center, the stem, can reabsorb as much energy as it can from existing leaves and stems. So it's always good to leave the leaves on, even if they don't look pretty. If they have any green in them, just let them fall off naturally and then toss them. But for right now, any energy that it can take from these leaves and get it back into the stem to put out new growth, that's what we want. Oh, here's another triangle Anthurium. I call him Mr. Triangle. We got some more finicky Anthuriums in here that otherwise don't do that well in ambient conditions. There are some cloud forest species that like to be in terrariums. We got, you know, I don't have a lot of monsteras, but I recently got this variegated one from Plant Corner.
Ah.
And then this one, this is probably one of my favorite Anthuriums in my collection. It's called Quechua Queen, and it is a cross between, I think, like rugulosum, which has a very like bumpy texture, and marmoratum. And it puts out just these beautiful leaves with a stunning iridescence. In certain lights, it gives you a little bit like that bluish green. I love this thing. But that is the mess, and I have some moss down there. Oh, I have this rock that I found in Panama. So there's a story to everything. It just had like some cool like texture and color to it, and I was like, oh, give me that.
I just love how
Don't tell customs.
No. I just love how everything is displayed. It's like your home is now an art piece.
Thank you. That's what I was going for. I like to display my plants as works of art. I don't want it to feel like, oh, here's his plant collection. Here's all his plants lined up in red solo cups. That's for the grow tent. You know what I'm saying? But everything here, like I just had some friends come over the other day and they were like, wow, Jake, like this feels like such a cozy space. Like what a nice home. Like that's the reaction I want people to get. I don't want them to be overwhelmed with foliage. I want them to be like, oh, like he's incorporated greenery into his aesthetic.
Right.
This is a hanging philodendron, and I tell you guys.
Is that the majestic?
This is the majestic. Yeah. It's varicosum and soderoy crossed together. And it's quite hardy in comparison to pure varicosum.
Yep, I agree.
But it gives you that nice kind of varicosum-ish look with the blush undersides, with the super iridescent shiny leaves. It has kind of like a subtle camo effect on the front of the leaves. It's a living work of art. And I love how you can hang these and they retain their big shape. Right. You know, some philodendrons or monsteras, you can't really let them trail or else they get kind of leggy and they get smaller growth. But there are some types out there that can actually look really beautiful. And varicosum and varicosum hybrids actually look beautiful when they're hanging. So give hanging philodendrons a try. That isn't just like a heteroecium.
Right.
You know, there's other forms out there. I got the floating things next to the floating things. Those are the floating mountains of Pandora, my favorite film of all time. I just love that place. I love those films because it reminds us that we are already living on Pandora. We are like everything you see in that film from the floating mountains, it's based off a real place. I think like in China, you know, the bioluminescent forest, bioluminescence is real. It's not real in plants per se, but it is something that it's not science fiction. So everything in that film is showing us that we're already living in paradise. We're already living in the greatest place in the universe, and we have to take care of it. So that's why I love those films. And then I have these floating things. These are my air plants. My dad said they look like spiders. So with air plants, if you see like this one, for example, after they flower, they will put out a pup.
Yep.
They will put out a pup, and then eventually the mother plant will die. Well, these mother plants have been around for a long time, but the first mother plant to die, and it happened within a week, was this guy. So this is the pup of the mother plant. So it's continuing the life cycle. And I love these things. I water this, I don't know, once a month if I can remember. I put it in the shower, turn it on, let it, you know, soak for a few hours. Just put it in there, forget about it. You know, cool water. You don't want to boil it. You're not giving them a hot shower. And then I just make sure because they collect water in nature. So you have to just make sure you tip them upside down, make sure there's no water sitting in there because we don't have the airflow and the bright light that you get in nature.
Right.
So they have very low light here. They have a grow light down here, which also makes it look kind of nice. Looks kind of like it's lit up or something.
Yeah.
But these guys are growing in very low light, and especially this one has grown quite a bit. But yeah, they're great. I love air plants.
Beautiful. Look at this queen up here. Wow.
This might be my favorite plant destination, favorite moment, corner, if you will, of my apartment. I just love this space so much.
Me too.
So this is where my big plants go, as you can tell. I actually took out, this actually has I think 5 tiers, but I took out one here and one here so I could let the big plants grow here. Because here's the thing, guys. We get plants small, but eventually they grow and they get big. Who'da thunk? Nature growing? What? So I got this really big Philodendron Atabapoense here. It has the beautiful burgundy underside to the leaves when it's in its kind of immature juvenile form.
So what do you do when it gets much bigger? Just chop and prop?
Pretty much, yeah. This actually used to be 3 times as tall, and then it was potted in soil, which I don't really do, but it was potted in soil for the longest time, and I actually didn't water it. I got a little bit of dry rot. It dropped a couple of leaves. I was like, oh no! I just chopped it. It had a bunch of big fat aerial roots. I just put that in water. It rooted out. I then put it in leca. I let the reservoir drain to the bottom, and I just filled it as if it were semi-hydroponics. And then I took out the top layer of leca, and I replaced that with like some very free draining aeroid mix. And now I just have it in here. So that's how you can transfer from water to then semi-hydro, and then eventually to, you know, like an aeroid mix or like a substrate again.
How do you get them to grow like so close, like the nodes are so close to one another and not leggy?
Light.
More light.
Yes, I find that light is what makes these plants get compact.
Yeah.
And also, or stretch, or lack thereof. Because when I had this plant, it was growing like the internodal spacing was like this, and it was putting out a leaf, then a leaf, then a leaf. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna outgrow this thing like within 6 months. But then as it got closer and closer to the light, the internodal spacing suddenly became very, very compact. Because it's no longer trying to stretch out and search for that light. Right. It's like, okay, I found the light. I can relax a little bit. I can put out bigger leaves now.
Right.
So that is the secret, more light. So here we have, I believe, a Ripsalis. I've had this for, I think, like 3 years now or so. And I love this thing. It's a slow grower, but it's probably grown twice in length. You know, so maybe another foot within those 3 years. I never water it, guys. I love it because I can just set it and forget it. It can do highlight, it can do low light. It's getting like low light up here, kind of medium light down here by the grow light. These grow lights are not that strong. They're good for aeroids, not for higher light things, not for orchids. But I love this guy and this guy. Anthurium brownii that I grew from seed.
Wow.
I love these things. So yeah, I grew a whole bunch of seeds and I kept these 2. Should we talk about this stunner?
I know.
I love this thing. I got this at an Ecogenera pop-up. It was decent size. I think the biggest leaves were like maybe almost a foot long or about a foot. So it was already pretty big when I got it. And I just stuck it onto a pole and it's just been taken off ever since. And it's not getting a whole lot of light, guys. That's the great thing about philodendrons. They don't need super, super bright light. You want to give them good light, but they don't need to be in, you know, super bright, like outdoor shade conditions. You know what I'm saying? They can be under medium light grow lights like this one and put out these giant leaves. By the way, guys, in the wild, or like a greenhouse, these can grow
taller than us.
Maybe 6 feet, 4 or 6 feet. Yeah. So, but I don't think it needs to get much bigger than this. This is a good size. This is a good size. I like this size. They're really, really good. One thing, they are a spider mite magnet. It was doing well for months, and then like in the last month or 2, it's been getting some spider mites.
Mine got thrips.
Yeah, don't you just love them? You love them.
Yeah.
So I've been spraying it and treating it. I do baby it because I love it. I don't want these leaves to go, you know, to seed. I want them to stay looking nice. The undersides are a little bit damaged because of the spider mites, but
they still look
but they still look beautiful. Yeah, so I love this thing. And if you when you get in really close, you can actually see that it was very leggy when I bought it, but then as it got closer to the grow light and got more mature and put out bigger leaves, it grew much more compact. So now it's not growing super aggressively vertically, but it's putting out really big foliage all the time.
Nice.
Here's more just like a filler spiller, if you will. I forget that I even have this half the time. This is a variegated syngonium. I mean, we
love them. We
diss on them so much, like, oh, syngonium, whatever. But like, you know what? They're a great starter plant for variegated plants.
Yeah.
They're great
and
hanging.
Not too pricey.
They're great for trailing. They're great for hanging, and they're great for climbing. If you want to, have them get a little bit bigger up like a pole or a stick or something. They're just great plants. And I don't treat this at all. It'll have a spider mite or two, crawling on it or something, but I don't really treat it or nothing, and it still looks great.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're tough as nails. So definitely get yourself one of those. And then down here, from right to left, we have a Terrarium hybrid Anthurium, and I got it because it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Delta Force, because the Delta Force has like this bluish green color and like a border around the edge of the leaf. I really liked this leaf structure, so I got this, I think from like We Love Plants LLC, I think is what it was. And yeah, they sent me one, and I was like, wait a minute, can you send me the one that you showed in your story instead? Mm-hmm. So yeah, they sent me that one because I really like that one. Yeah, and that thing flowers all the time. It actually, when I got it, it already had some berries. So it was either self-pollinated or open-pollinated, maybe by accident. So I have those growing, which we'll see a little bit later, and we'll see what they turn into.
Yeah.
Anthuriums, they can be so fun to pollinate, to not just propagate, but pollinate and make babies. Make inventions. You can cross this with that, this cross with that, cross with this, cross with that, and then you make something that's beautiful.
I never had the patience for it.
Obviously, you can see it from across the room, that beautiful pop of pink. That is my Philodendron Pink Princess. I had a Pink Princess way back in the day when they used to be popular, and I hated them because they were like those tissue cultured ones that have no color, and they would grow just awful. They wouldn't put out leaves properly, and they would just look like muddy and brown. I don't like that. So you gotta get a plant, no matter how big or small it is, it has to have good, nice variegation. Don't get a brown princess and think it'll turn pink, because it's not going to. You have to get one that has good variegation. I was told this one was a non-TC, a non-tissue cultured, so maybe that is what makes them kind of look brown and not so attractive, maybe because they're tissue cultured to death. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I love that thing. I love the variegation it puts out. It's been very good. It doesn't put out like warped leaves anymore. Now, once it gets to a big size, it doesn't do like the inchworm thing that philodendrons do, where when it's not humid enough, they just kind of like, they can't quite, they get stuck. They can't quite get that leaf out in time, and like they tear themselves or something. So thankfully, he's putting out some beautiful leaves. And then right next to it, we have a very special Anthurium that's very, very blue. It is my No ID Black Swan. No ID meaning I don't know what it is. I bought a plant from Indonesia, long story short, and I was sent a picture of a plant, and I was like, okay, I paid 150 bucks for that plant, and he sent me, I'm like, what is this? Like, this is not the plant. This is not you. Like, he tried to scam me, unfortunately. This was like back in 2021 when it was happening a lot more often. And I was like, dude, like, this is not the right plant. So he showed me a more expensive plant. He tried to send me a cheaper plant. Little did that scammer know that it would turn into this beautiful thing that not only looks amazing and is one of my favorite Anthuriums of all time, and it's so special to me because I don't see others quite like it, but also I self-pollinated him and made thousands. Right over here, gigantic Anthurium. This is Cupola spathum, meaning spathe shaped like a cupola. It just flowered for me for the very first time. I'll send you a picture of what the flower looks like because it was just beautiful. It's like pink, and it's kind of like upside down, kind of hangs pendant.
Cute.
So cupola, like a small dome structure. Spathe, which is the thing that covers the spadix, like a little finger that aeroids have. So Cupola spathum, that's what it's called. And I love this thing, it's great. Again, just growing in a vase, getting maybe like 500-ish foot candles right here or so, and it's loving life. And you know, it gets spider mites every once in a while, but it doesn't really show damage for a while, so I can usually get it in time and spray it, and they're usually just fine. And it grows pretty fast, so.
Yeah, having pests is like so normal for plant parents.
You know what? Once you get it, you're just like trying to brush them off. Like that Patriciae that I showed you, it didn't have spider mites for the longest time. I was like, thank you. And then suddenly when it had them, it just has them now, like forever. So you just have to like, you know, because if I go and even if I scrub every leaf, I could damage the leaves. I could give them cosmetic damage. So I'm a little scared to do that because they're just so big and so beautiful. And they also do have some cosmetic damage when I tried to do that in the past. So, but yeah, like you can't get every single little egg, every single little mite, every little thrip or whatever.
We can only like keep them under control, but not
keep them under control, keep them from becoming an outbreak, and just spraying it down, you know, a couple times a week when it gets bad, and then just like spraying every couple of weeks when you can for the more finicky plants, the more pest-prone plants, if you will. But the flowers, I just had them for the spring. I've had them for a couple of weeks. They're kind of gone to seed. I think they need full sun, but I just got them to add a little bit of color for spring going into summer. This is the plant that I've had for the longest. I've had him since 2012, so 12
years. Wow.
This is a Strelitzia reginae. Also known as
the type of bird of paradise?
Yep, it is a bird of paradise, the orange bird of paradise, the one that is a common landscaping plant down south, like in Florida.
How do you grow it indoor? Has it ever bloomed?
So that's the thing. I've had it for years. It could have bloomed years ago, but here's the thing. It needs a lot of light. They need full sun or very, very, very bright filtered light, you know, like part sun at the very least. So they grow in lower, like indoor light, not darkness. You don't want to put it next to your snake plants. But if you put it in a north-facing window or like in a little bit of a darker corner, like I used to have it growing right here. Wasn't getting a lot of light at all, but it had a beautiful structure, as you can see. But I've had it for years. And when you're taking up this much space, can you give me a show? You know what I'm saying? Because I will never get rid of him. But also, I have other plants that are getting really big that will eventually become floor plants. I have other plants that I've wanted to get, but I don't have the space for them. So I'm like, you gotta start paying rent, man. So I have this like kind of halo light over it. So now it's getting over 1,000-foot candles, and I'm hoping that that's enough light to trigger blooming in the fall. I'm also upping the fertilizer a little bit, the watering a little bit. Yeah, he was kind of like a set it and forget it. I did treat him like a snake plant. I'm not gonna be, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So I didn't really help him, you know, bloom at all this entire time. So it's not all on him, it's mostly on me. Plants will only thrive as much as the environment allows them to. So if it's not getting enough light, if it's not getting enough feed, enough water, it's not going to thrive. It may look beautiful, but it's not going to flower. It's not going to get as big as fast. And for some people, maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want a smaller, more bonsai look. But now I'm at a point, I want this thing to flower. He's getting big. I want him to flower. And I just have this preserved moss just to kind of give the otherwise boring dirt look some nice appeal. When you got a big pot with a lot of dirt in it, you can put like a little something decorative. Like you can put little something like that in there. Make it look more interesting. Now there's a sloth on it. And finally, guys, we have my library. This is relatively new. I put out a video a couple of months ago where I got rid of my Detolf cabinet because I wasn't really ever into the look of like displaying plants like as a collection. I want to incorporate it into my design aesthetic. So I have books here, so it looks like a library. Most of them are plant books. Just gonna be honest. But then I also have, for example, plants that need higher humidity. I have them in like a little terrarium here, but I have it set up where it looks like it could be like a terrarium for like a lizard or something. I have a skull in there that I also got from Panama. It's a coati skull that I found during low tide. No, that's a real skull. This orchid, again, relatively new. I got it at an Equigenera pop-up. It's a coconut orchid, and it smells like coconut. And it's been flowering for a good month now. I read online they flower like 7 to 10 days, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not gonna have that. But I got this one because I like the structure, I like the bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
I like the kind of grassy look on top. It looks kind of like ornamental grass.
Mm-hmm.
So even when it's not flowering, it looks kind of interesting. But the flowers actually have a nice little scent to them. So I just think it's lovely. I got this Anthurium path, the papilla laminum, right there. Has like a nice narrow leaf, which I really like. I have these air plants here that are just kind of like in these decorative little things that I got from a village in Panama. Like the indigenous people made these.
Cute.
And they're just nice little displays for these guys. I have another, what do you call this thing? The moss portrait.
Moss frame, yeah.
I recently made one at Plant Corner
Oh.
to add to my collection. This is my new one lingerie that is gonna probably replace that one. Hopefully this one actually flowers and grows quicker and is more exciting than that one over there. But that one's, it's so big and beautiful, but also like I need energy and excitement in my life. You know what I'm saying? It's like I need things to grow.
If you don't grow, you go.
This is my last carnivorous plant that is in its own pot. And I just love this thing because first of all, it would be difficult to put in a terrarium.
Pretty.
It would be difficult to put in a terrarium. They are epiphytic in nature. They grow in bongs, but they can also grow on trees. And I just love.
Is that from us?
Two of them are from you, and then one of them I got
Oh, you
from
put them
another
in
place.
one pot?
And I put them all in one pot.
Beautiful.
And I just let it sit in water. Again, I give it distilled water. It puts these out like it's nobody's business. Just give it a lot of light, and it sun stresses beautifully. Here is. I bought it as an Anthurium dresslery, but it doesn't look like a dresslery. Something about it looks different. So I'm calling it like a CF dresslery, which is like maybe it's a dresslery, maybe it's something else. But I'm growing it in ambient. It's doing really well so far. So it's also flowered for me at this size. So maybe I can pollinate it and get like some interesting babies out of it.
What is your level of humidity in here?
Right now it's like 50, it says 59%. When the AC on, it gets to like 45%, and in the winter time, it can drop as low as 25%.
So what do you do with all like your anthuriums and stuff?
Nothing. That's where the vases come in. So if I show you an example here, this is Anthurium schizeriana. It was, I believe, the first Anthurium to ever be collected and described back in the 18 or 1700s. So I have it in a vase here. I have a free draining base of pumice at the bottom, and then I have the substrate on top, which is a combination of aeroid mix and sphagnum moss. And I find that as long as you keep a microclimate around the roots, around the root ball, that is always moist and humid, then the plant overall stays happy. So even when the humidity drops, the moisture and the humidity around the roots doesn't.
Right.
So I find that's the secret. It doesn't work across the board. There are some species that do need that extra humidity, but for the vast majority of tropical plants, this actually works wonders.
And do you have issues with root rot if you keep the roots moist at all times?
No, root rot will happen regardless of what you grow in. Root rot will happen if you water inconsistently. So if you water too much, if you water not enough, if you do a combination of both. I do get root rot, I get dry rot, but that is not because of this. That happens when I don't water enough or I water too much. It never happens over time where I'm watering perfectly and then suddenly, oh no, what's happening? It's always when I water inconsistently. So it's not going to make it lower maintenance per se. You're still going to have to water it as much as you would a plant in a regular pot, but you don't have to give it as much high humidity.
Gotcha.
So that's the secret. My one and only bromeliad that I love, it's Ackmenia chantinii. It's a
Cute.
zebra bromeliad. I just love that thing. And then right next to it, I have Magnificum OA, also known as SP Nove Peru. So I guess it's an undescribed species from Peru, and it puts out like this orange emergent leaf. And I'll insert a photo of what that looks like. It's just beautiful. Oh guys, I gotta show you this. Jira gave me some Vitaria folium seeds, and this one's about 1.5 years old, and look at it. Grew that from seed.
You're doing so much better than mine.
You know why? Because you have so many plants. You have so many more plants than I do. So I'm able to kind of baby each one a little bit. I have another dresslery growing in ambient conditions, putting out that leaf in ambient.
Beautiful.
So we'll see how that does. Any Anthurium grower will say, oh, you can't do that. Dressleries are so hard to care for. Well, I'm doing it. So let's just see how it goes.
It's always like trial and errors, right? Like
exactly.
Experimenting and learning.
Exactly.
Is that your new baby?
And this is something I got. I grew it from a chunk. I got it in a trade, so I didn't pay for it, thankfully. This is a variegated Philodendron gloriosum. As of recording this, they're quite hard to get your hands on. Hopefully they'll become more accessible because they're a really beautiful plant. And I was really scared because it was a chunk, and I don't like chunks because they're very hit or miss. Sometimes they rot, sometimes they make it. Sometimes they make it and then they rot. Like you think you have it and then you don't. That's happened to me a lot of times, where I'll bring a chunk back to life from the dead, basically, and then it just gets raw and just goes down. So I'm very, very happy this guy is doing well, and he looks beautiful. And finally, guys, behind the scenes, Narnia!
Whoa!
So guys, remember when I told you, like, you have to be pretty if you're gonna be on display. And if you're not, in the grow tent you go.
Oh, wow!
So, as you can see, nothing in here looks quite pretty. Everything in here is either rehabbing or things in here I am growing out to either sell or to propagate or what have you. I have some seedlings down there. I have this thing that needs to reroot. But yeah, guys, this is where all the ugly stuff goes. So when I want to have people over, I don't want all this stuff in red Solo cups all over my place. I throw them in here, I close it up,
and pretend like they don't exist.
Exactly. And when people come over, they don't see all the plants that are dying. When people come into your space, you want them to look around and see thriving. You don't want to showcase plants in prime spots in your home that are like not looking the best right now or looking like they're on the struggle bus. You want to display plants that not only give off a great mood and a great vibe, but also put you in a better mood.
Could you give new plant parents like 3 words of advice?
I would say don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't get on the hype train. Get off that hype train, man, because it's not going anywhere you want to go. Because plants, they're up here, then they're down there. When it comes to price, when it comes to popularity, you know, plants just 12 months ago that were like the it plants are now like nobody collects them anymore. So you have to collect plants that you love. That would probably be the third thing. Like collect plants that you love, because whether they're popping off or nobody grows them, like you always will love them. Because I really don't like it when like collectors, they collect plants only when they're popular, and then when they're not popular anymore, they try to get rid of them.
Right.
And they move on to something else. It's just so materialistic. And the whole point of growing plants should be about like getting away from that materialism, getting away from, you know, kind of like the human, this society that we've created that's so, you know, like the antithesis of nature, if you think about it. I mean, plants, you can learn so much from them. I tell people when they're like, Jake, why do you like plants so much? I say because they inspire me. And they're like, what do you mean they inspire you? Like, plants are my biggest source of motivation. You know why? Because these guys, they don't hit the snooze button. They never hit the snooze button. They are always working. When that sun comes out, when the grow lights turn on, they are doing their thing. And they're always trying to be the best they can possibly be. They're not looking at the plant next to them, or the plant on the other side of the room, or that other plant on Instagram and going, oh, why can't I look as pretty as that plant? Like we do. Humans, we're so weird. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
It's a thing we all do. I do it too. We all do it. But plants don't do that. The only reason this plant looks so beautiful is not because it's trying to be the prettiest plant. It's just trying to be the best that it can possibly be.
In its environment.
In its environment. So it is taking the environment and it is trying to make it work. And that's what we gotta do, guys. We gotta adapt. You know, when life throws us a curveball, we just gotta adapt. We gotta go with it, and we gotta learn how to thrive. Because plants have one goal in life. That is to thrive, and also to spread their genes for, future generations. But yeah, we all want to live forever, and even for plants, that passing down their genes. That is, if you think about it, a way for them to achieve immortality, to have a life after death, because when they die, they know that their genes are going to be passed on. And what's interesting about orchids, people think that when they're done flowering, they're going to die and they throw them out. And the reason they think that, the reason novice growers think that, is because if the roots are rotting, the plant will still have beautiful flowers. The flowers are not going to be aborted. The flowers are not going to drop to protect or to save the plant. If the orchid has to choose between saving itself or saving its flowers, it's going to save its flowers and let its roots go to hell, because it knows that these flowers are its last
chance of living.
Its last chance of living. These flowers right here give it the opportunity to be pollinated and to spread its genes for future generation. So, talk about like the most selfless thing in existence, right?
Right.
So plants inspire me.
I've heard like comparison is the theft of joy. Because like once you start comparing yourself to others, you take away the joy of just being you.
Yep. And we look on Instagram, we look on Facebook, social media, and we say, oh, your plant looks so good, why can't mine look like that? You know what? Your plant might be looking the best it's ever looked. Be proud of that. Even if it's only this big. If it's looking the best it's ever looked, don't think, oh, why can't mine be as big as yours? If that, that's your plant.
Right.
And that's what your plant thriving in that environment.
Right.
So
and if you want your plants to grow big, change the environment.
I was just going to say, if you want your plant to become something bigger and better than what it already is, to thrive more, change the environment.
So, what advice would you give for someone who don't have a lot of space? Because this is a studio and you have like so many beautiful plant collections in here.
What advice I would give you? Don't have a lot of space. I would say, if you can't choose between this plant and that plant, go for the hybrid. Also, hybrids are a lot hardier. They're a lot easier to care for, so you can get the best of both worlds in one plant as opposed to having two. Also, consolidating by planting plants together. So I had all my carnivorous plants out in ambient in their own little cups, and I put them in my terrarium so that I could have more room for my orchids on my shelves. So planting plants together. Also, my big terrarium, the IKEA terrarium, that has like 50 plants in there that otherwise used to just kind of be here and there and everywhere. And I love that after I made that terrarium, whether it was the big one, even the small one, I just loved seeing more space in between my plants, because then it allowed each plant to shine, because they're living works of art. Let's just be honest.
Especially like all these orchids when they're blooming.
Oh yeah, aren't orchids just so dreamy?
Yeah.
They're just, look at this thing, just like a little chandelier over me.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love having people come over so I can tell them about my plants and show them off.
It's such a plant person. Let us know what you think about this video and if I should visit more of my customers to see their collection. And tell Jake what plant that he has that's your favorite. All right, don't forget to follow both Plant Corner NYC and
Plant Gate for Life,
or Jake and Zara on Spotify.
Oh yeah. You can check out my music, Jake and Zara, on Spotify as well.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.